Alright, so for the recording, it's me versus TN or whatever the fuck. I got Yuta, he's got Hakari. Who
Yeah.
you want to start?
I'm starting.
Your
Let's
choice.
start.
I
Huh?
don't really care.
Okay, you can start.
Okay. A scaling for Yuta over Hakari is going to be pretty simple. So you're aware of the statement that says that Yuta's Gojo?
Yuta's relative to Gojo?
It says he's second to Gojo
In terms of what?
in terms of unusual abilities.
I can agree with that statement. Yeah.
Okay. So what's it called? Well, I just believe that would get him like above Hakari. Because Hakari also employs unusual abilities just like Yuta, and they say that his
None-
usual abilities are better than Hakari's.
it can be in regards to technique.
What do you mean
For
in regards to
example,
technique?
hold on. For example, right? Uh, Yuta can copy every other technique except for Limitless because of the six eyes. So
Yeah.
it can just be so the statement can just mean like that Yuta is able to copy every single other technique, right? But he can't copy Gojo's technique because he needs the six eyes to do it. And also, we just know that Hakari. We also just know that it has to be that because we know that Hakari is better at domain.
Okay, so two things, right? We can get to whether or not Hakari is better than Maze later, but for now, I disagree with the so just to clarify on your interpretation, are you trying to say that the statement is saying that Yuta has a better curse technique than Hakari?
Yeah, Yuta just has the best curse technique, excluding Gojo.
Well, I'd have to disagree with that interpretation because, for one, they go over unusual abilities, which references like not just curse technique, but the conjunction of like what a sorcerer does, which would include things like base curse energy applications and whatnot. Secondly, typically when they go over, or like when they rank. Okay, fix your mic real quick because I don't want to hear the background noise. But
That's not me. That's yours.
no, it is yours. But anyways,
No,
what's
I'm sure it's coming from you. I
just
can.
just it's okay. Yeah, just mute up all that. Obviously when you want to speak. My bad. I'm a little stuffy, but okay. What I was gonna say is that typically when they make statements in JJK like ranking things, right? Like people or like curse techniques and whatnot, it's about the like active combative utilization of those things, right? For example, Gojo isn't the strongest, or he's not ranked as the strongest in the verse, even though he has like one of the best curse techniques until he surpasses Geto with the RCT and all that shit. Just an example, right? Typically we see it's like indexed at like the actualized strength. Sukuna as well and Gojo, when they're called the strongest in their eras, it's because what's it called? They can beat everyone else. Same thing with Kashimo, even though he couldn't use his curse technique, he was regarded as the strongest of his era. He was like lowly in that era. Um, and just as other examples, right, with the grades, for example, besides special grade sorcerers, sorcerers are typically ranked amongst like their combative utility actively in that moment. Hence, somebody even with a curse technique and a potential that's super big, like Megami, he's only grade two until at least in the beginning of the story. And what's it called? It just shows that like when they rank things, right? In this case, they're ranking Yuta's overall use of his unusual abilities as second to Gojo. It's typically about like the active utilization, right? Hence, Megami isn't given a huge rank just because he has a curse technique that has a lot of potential. If this is what you're trying to get at with like Yuta having the copy that has a lot of potential as a curse technique, um, rather it's about actively how impactful that shit is.
So that's why I brought up the second justification, which is we already know that Yuta, he admits inferiority, and he also doesn't have better attributes when it comes to a domain. He also admits inferiority to Hakari instead in terms of Jujutsu aspect, which is Jackpot Hakari.
Okay, him admitting inferiority to what's it called, Akari, but could be in terms of like just contextualized to his own power, because we know there are multiple points where Yuta will make statements either about himself overall or about himself in conjunction with Rika, distincting himself from Rika, right? Rika's something
Can you
he has
show?
distinct
Can you
from.
show those? Can you show
Yeah.
those statements?
Also, justify like while I'm getting that, justify him having a better like domain than Yuta, because Yuta has better
Um,
affirmation with his barrier skills.
you say he has better what?
He has better affirmations with his barrier skills. For example, the fact that he's able to miniaturize it, the fact that he's able to distinguish the sure hit. If you remember,
Yeah, that's fine. He can have better applications of his domain. That doesn't prove that he has better domain refinement or just better domain skills in general, right? For example, right, we can
he
say
has
that
similar
Dagon.
powers to
Hold on. I can explain why, right? Okay, for example, we know that Dagon has good domain applications, right? He can apply different applications to his domain, but that wouldn't make his domain refinement just above majority people in the show because they haven't shown domain application fees like
what's it,
his.
Well, I mean, with Dagon, I just don't believe that thing because I think that with Dagon. Okay, can you please mute your mic because it's just coming with an echo. Okay. With Dagon, I'd like you to, like, prove that a little bit harder because I don't think Dagon ever shows that, like, his domain refinement. Because obviously we know curse energy and compatibility are also factors that go into domain clashes, but, we don't really see an example with Dagon wherein, like, he has better refinement than somebody and somebody who doesn't make up for the other stats such as curse energy and compatibility.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're confused when I'm debating what I'm arguing right now, right? I'm saying what you just said. You basically just agreed to my argument, right? I'm saying that Dagon doesn't have good refinement just based on his application skills, right? We know that Dagon can choose the targets of his said technique, sure hit effect inside of a domain, but that wouldn't mean that he has high refinement than everybody else, which you just agreed to,
Yeah,
right?
for yeah,
So you
first off, I never agreed that he didn't necessarily have good refinement. I'm just
you
saying
just
that.
said he doesn't have more than the majority. I said Dagon
No, I
just because
didn't
he
say
can't.
that, but
Hold on,
okay.
let me finish. My argument at first was that Dagon has good applications of his domain, but that doesn't inherently mean that he has better refinement than majority people or people who haven't shown these said application feats to their domain. You said, okay,
So
you said that.
why do you think Dagon's refinement is worse than them?
Oh, no, I didn't say that. I'm not affirming that it is worse. I'm just saying that we can't say that Dagon's domain refinement is better than those people just based on application, which
It
you
would
just
give us
agreed to. You just agreed to
it
it, so like, so it
no,
was
it would
cool.
have more probability. Okay, wait, no, let me rephrase because maybe I was mishearing or something, but I don't think it was. If Dagon has the ability to selectively choose a sure hit, which is said to be a high-level barrier skill, it would give us more priors to believe that he has better refinement, because for somebody who doesn't have that or doesn't show that ability, that's something that's still in question, whereas with Dagon, we can rule out that being in question because he's demonstrated it.
Well, no, you just
Probability
agreed to the fact that he doesn't have good refinement.
No, I'm just saying that even again, we never see what I said specifically verbatim, you actually didn't track, was that against people who he has better refinement than, we never see like an example wherein like my bad. I say against certain like other domain clashes, we because he only domain clashes with Megami anyway. We never see an example where like Dagon is he has better like curse energy and compatibility than somebody, but then they have worse refinement, but they're still able to like beat him. So
Hold
like
on, why is that?
Dagon's point is improvable.
Hold on, why is that a main? Hold on, why is Curse energy output and just compatibility in itself a main factor?
Well,
Why can't it just be a factor?
they do factor in domain clashes. You know that,
Hold on,
right?
they can factor in. They can choose whether or not they can. That's why it says can. It
No, no,
doesn't say it is.
Gojo
It
says
says
no,
can.
okay, oh my fucking gosh. Gojo just says they do. He doesn't say they can, first off. What's it
Okay,
called?
show the statement. Show the statement because I'm 99% sure the statement says it can also depend on these said attributes.
Wait, but just so you know,
And then
can
after this point,
depend
we
on
can just
the
move on.
attribute can depend wait, can depend on the attributes could be the fact that because, like, for example, in certain domain clashes, there could be just such an overwhelming, like, refinement difference that cursed energy isn't really all that relevant. But that doesn't mean that cursed energy isn't a relevant thing in all domain clashes. It could just be the case
Okay,
that it's
you're
not
not
relevant,
tracking. You're not tracking.
like, it's not a factor.
I said it can be one, right? Meaning that okay, let's say Sukuna, right? Sukuna could put in curse energy and output and compatibility into his domain to domain diff Gojo, right? But it doesn't mean he did or he is doing it.
Output is something that's true of all domains. All domains output curse energy. That's how they're fucking formed. What I
No,
like, you're not
curse
understanding what
energy
I'm
in
saying.
terms
You're
of
not understanding what
Sukuna,
I'm
curse
saying
energy in
in
terms of
the
what's on their
sense.
body.
No, no, no,
Okay,
don't
you're
over talk.
confused.
What I'm saying
You're
is in the
confused on my
sense
argument. No, no,
that
no, you're
cursed
confused on my
energy is
argument.
always
You're
outputted
confused on
within
my
a
argument.
domain. It's
Curse
always outputted
energy.
within a domain. So that Gojo's just saying that maybe it doesn't matter because like your refinement could just be so good that even as you have an output difference in the domain, the refinement's able to carry. That's why he could be saying that, even though he doesn't even fucking say that. I'll send the statement along with the Yuta statement to prove my claim from earlier that sometimes
Yeah,
referring to.
go ahead. But
But yeah, he says,
you're
what's
confusing
it
yourself
called?
right now.
He says it can also depend on compatibility and curse energy. This does not mean that, oh, compatibility and curse energy just aren't applicative in all domain clashes. This just means that, what's it called? Your refinement can trump somebody so that even if they have a curse energy and compatibility advantage over you, it won't matter because, what's it called? Even though those are being applied within the domain clash, they won't matter if you just have like an overwhelming, what's it called? Refinement difference in your domain. That doesn't mean that not all domain clashes aren't dependent on all these three factors, and they would be because what's it called? Inherently, as a baseline, all domains have a structured environment that go into compatibility. All
Okay, so
domains output cursed energy, so there's obviously.
you just agreed to my argument. We can move on then.
All right, we can move on from there. Any more contentions? Because I already substantiated everything I just said. I even said I said this.
You didn't. You verbatim disagreed to my argument that you verbatim said that the three applications doesn't always mean it'll be used in the domain clash.
All right, that's fine. We can honestly move on then.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. You're confusing yourself. You're just babbling. Now we can go ahead and move on to the Rika and Yuta point again. And then after this, we might as well just conclude because you're confusing yourself.
Yeah, no. So as I said, I just sent a scan where like Yuta says like, "Oh,
Where'd you send
Rican."
that?
He
JVC
says,
too?
here. Yeah, I send it on the same place where I send the
Oh,
fucking.
JVC. Okay.
Yeah, so to explain the scan and explain the argument, you're trying to say that because Yuta concedes to Hakari, it means that Yuta's conceding overall, even when he's using Rika in his like combative arsenal. But we know that sometimes Yuta will differentiate his combative ability between him and Rika, as he says, Rika and our powers together would be effective against two Shikigami. So in a power scaling statement, comparing him to the two Shikigami, that being Agito and Maharaga, Yuta says that Rika and I would be effective. So he's not attributing it solely to his own combative prowess, as in inclusive of including Rika and his own combative prowess. He's saying our two combative powers would be effective against these two Shikigami. So in the case of Hakari and Yuta's statement, Yuta could be saying that Hakari would beat him without Rika, whereas if you were to use Rika, which is part of his overall arsenal, it would be inclusive that the second Gojo statement would just put him above. Anyway, so
Okay. Really, I could grant this, but because I think Rika's faulty, but I'm gonna just go ahead and argue this, man. So when Yuta is reference to Rika and him being effective against the two Shikigami, right? Do you agree that that can also be a reference to like just matchup this?
what do you mean? Like they don't necessarily like beat them in terms of overall stats, but they have like matchup and like curse techniques and
No,
shit.
no, 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 no. So Yuta can so for example, Yuta can say let's do Gojo versus Sukuna for example, right? Gojo can say oh Sukuna has this domain Sukuna has Fuga, right? Actually no, what's a better example? Um okay, let's say okay, Sukuna has good hand to hand combat, right? But with Infinity, right, I can negate all of that. And I have the best matchup against Sukuna his hand to hand combat, right? You Infinity is still a part of Gojo's technique. That's still something that we can establish in how we scale Gojo, right? Which is Infinity, right? So it can just be in reference to this matchup. Yuta can say, okay, since Sukuna has two Shikigami, right? Me and Rika, right, will be a good matchup for these two Shikigami. He's not creating a distinction. He's just creating a matchup this on why it will just be effective.
Okay, my problem with that, right, is that first off, I don't really think that's a relevant distinction because I think it's not quite analogous because Infinity is actually like just part of Gojo's curse technique, whereas with Yuta here, Rika is a separate being, right? So even if I
No,
granted,
no, she's
wait,
external.
one sec, I'm not done. Even if I granted that it could be a possible alternate interpretation, right, to like how what Yuta means when he says Rika and I, there's no likelihood that he's meaning like, oh, I'm referencing Rika as like part of my arsenal implicitly here instead of what I believe, which would probably, if anything, no, I wouldn't say that, but instead of what I believe here, which is just that he's referencing Rika as like external to himself as an additive, to like the overall situation, right? Because you're
No,
saying there's because I don't think like the Gojo thing would be an analogous example of that because of the fact that Infinity is it's something that's like baked into his own being, whereas Rika's an external fighter that can be called on to fight with you.
Rika is verbatim said to be an external part of his Christianique.
That's not stated. It's a
That is, she stated to be a storage.
yeah, she stores curse techniques for him. That doesn't mean she's part of his fucking curse technique.
No, okay. So what I'm doing, I'm just creating a conjunction between the two, right? Rika doesn't have to be verbatim, like she doesn't have to be blatantly a part of his Christianique. All she has to do is just be an extension of his Christianique, right? And she can still be counted as this said attribute that he can use instead of a battle, but that won't discredit her being a part of his combative abilities.
In certain contexts, yeah, like I'm fine with saying that you couldn't admit that in certain contexts, but I think that this just seems to give skepticism of that being like a universal thing that sometimes he can reference Rika being applied in a different context. So unless you give likelihood that he's still referencing, like the wording is still supposed to reference him and Rika.
Yeah, because Rika's the extension. Yeah, I just
One
explained
sec,
the
I'm not
wording.
done. I'm not done. Unless you can give likelihood that he's trying to like say that he and Rika are like one combative unit, which again would be distinct from the fact that he's saying Rika and I putting our combative abilities together. Um,
I
unless
just
you can prove that's one sec, I'm not done. Unless you can prove that's likely what he means there, that kind of shuts down the idea that Yuta has to always be inclusive of Rika, or it's likely he's inclusive of Rika in statements about his own combative prowess if you can't tell everyone.
Okay, do you agree that Rika's role doesn't change within JJK? Started JJK throughout Shinjuku. Do you agree that
Uh,
her role does not change, excluding JJK Zero?
yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, cool. So you'd agree throughout the whole show and throughout the whole manga, right? She is an external part of his extension of his curse technique. Correct.
No, I've been disagreeing with that. I think that she's something that stores curse techniques, and she's an extra
Okay,
friend.
cool. Okay, cool. So you agree with the So you agree with the notion that Rika is a part of the said technique which Yuta uses to for combative abilities.
She houses and gives him techniques that he
That's
uses.
not what I asked you.
Okay, I don't agree with that then. No.
Okay, good what? Hello, am I tweaking? Actually, I can just give you reasoning as to believe why.
Okay, repeat
So
what you said.
okay. Do you agree that Yuta is do you agree that Yuta's technique he uses his own technique for combative sense, right? He uses it to gain advantages in a combative fight, or like just in terms of unusual abilities in itself, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you also agree with the fact that since Rika is a part of this extension of the extension of this said thing that Yuta uses in the combative sense, Rika will also be a part of this. So, for example, yeah, let's use the same statement you used about Yuta being second to Gojo, right? You agree that when it's reference to unusual abilities, Rika will be included in this because she's a part of this unusual ability. She's the extension of it.
Yeah. Well, she's part of unusual abilities in the sense that she's a Shikigami that can be called on by Yuta, which is an unusual ability relative to the
Okay,
first.
okay, cool. So you just agree to my argument.
No, because I think what's it called? I mean, even if I agree that overall she's part of Yuta's like combative arsenal, I think that the contextualization of how Yuta considers Rika can be distinct from how the what's it called? The narrative.
I already rebutted that. I already rebutted that. I gave you the Gojo example, which you said you disagree with the Gojo example because Gojo's limitless technique, infinity, is a part of his technique. Which I basically just premise trapped you, right? I basically just gave I gave you an
That's
example of Rika
not
being used. Hold on.
why.
I gave you an example of Rika being used as an external factor of his curse technique, which means that she's an extension of it. You just agreed to that. So the analogy for
Doesn't
Gojo can
mean she's an extension of the curse technique. She can be something that has some relation to his ability to use curse techniques in the sense that she stores it for him. That does not mean that she's his fucking curse. That she's an extension of his fucking curse technique.
That's okay. That's why I said this. That's why I brought up the statement of Gojo Yuta being second to only Gojo, right? When it's in reference to unusual abilities, it's gonna include Rika.
Yeah, because unusual abilities isn't just capped out at fucking what's it called curse techniques. It's about
Okay, but you're just okay. That's not a rebuttal to my argument. I'm still correlating the fact that Rika is used as an ability that Yuta has.
that's fine. We can move on because I don't think
Okay,
there's.
cool. Let's just move
All
on.
right. I mean, do you have anything else? Because you brought up the Hakari statement for Utah, so I don't know if you have any other scaling for Hakari
What
with Utah.
Hakari's doing for Yuta? No, I'm disproving your
Well,
argument.
I thought you were. I thought that was like going to be your scaling. The fact that Utah
I
can see.
I I I was disproving your argument. You need to bring up more stuff.
Oops. Okay. Anyways, if you have another piece of scaling for Hakari over Utah, because I'm done my scaling, then
No,
you can give a.
okay, so do you want to still amend the argument then? Like,
What do you mean steal on the argument?
okay, cool. We can just get in as to why. Actually, no, we can just conclude. Actually,
Okay, we're done with the debate. Okay.
yeah, we can just conclude.
Yeah, then we can just end the rec here. Then I mean, do you want to give like proper conclusions?
It doesn't matter. It's on rec. We don't need to.
All right.
All right.